Hey everyone, Leo's here, not just like an episode. I have Scott here with me from DXC to talk to me about their intelligent boost solution. Stay tuned. Hey everyone, Leo's here, not just like an episode. I have Scott here with me from DXC. Scott, how are you doing, my friend?
Yeah, I'm pretty good. Yep. How are you getting on?
I'm doing great. This is part of a series that we have with our partners as we are now, on our path to releasing Azure IoT operations to the broader audience. And as part of that series, I heard about DXC solutions, and I really wanted to have that conversation with you. And today we're going to talk about all the solutions and all those good things. But before we do that, Scott, who you are, what is it that you do?
Yeah, sure. I'm global chief architect for Microsoft Tech across DXC. And I get involved with customers and different opportunities, but I'm also involved with making sure that our offering is responsive, to what customers want as well. And as one of those offerings that we have that I've been driving is called Intelligent Boost. So and I'm going to have a little chat with you about that.
Yeah, today we're definitely going to talk about intelligent boost. I saw some of the materials and I was like, this is really interesting. There's some good architecture going on here, and I really looking forward to nerd out about all these things with you. So talk to me about intelligent boost. Like, what is the problem statement here, and how does the architecture looks like?
Yeah, sure. I guess one of the first things I want to call out is, have you been to Hannover Messe at all?
Well, my team has. I've never been to Hannover Messe. Maybe next year. I heard that it's pretty
Yeah.
huge.
Okay, I'd heartily recommend it. And when you go there, it's absolutely fantastic. There's so many amazing vendors with such great solutions, but it's almost like a customer going there just has sort of vendor fatigue. Yeah, there's so many different solutions. And part of what we're looking to do with Intelligent Boost, the problem that we're trying to solve is that one of vendor fatigue, to say, actually, with Microsoft PaaS services, either on the cloud or on the edge, you can do a lot of those things that you have with a multitude of vendors. So that's one. We also believe we can make things cheaper, using PaaS, and also do things quicker, as well as sort of having that robustness and that security sort of holistically built into the offering as well. So that's what we hope to achieve with Intelligent Boost.
So talk to me about the architecture. What does intelligent boost really means when it comes to the solution and the architecture?
Yeah, well, it's, I guess the first thing, you're probably going to hear me saying the word modular a lot today, but it's very much around having a modular architecture. And that works great with the, Microsoft's adaptive cloud approach, about the modularity of platforms and bringing things together. So I'll switch to a slide now, if you like. And I call this the COSH, and it's not trademarked, so feel free to use it. It's basically it's a COSH continuum. So that's from custom through to off the shelf continuum. So if you imagine a lot of customers, they'll build their own solution, and then at the other end of the continuum, you've got off the shelf. Off the shelf might fit the requirements, but you may need a few different versions of the software. So just to sort of make this give a bit of an example of this, I'll give you a real world example, which is this here is a off-the-shelf synthesizer. It's a bass synthesizer. It does one thing really, really well, and I love it. But then at the other end of the continuum, I had an acquaintance make me a little drone synthesizer. So this one here is custom. It's actually, it's not a cheap shot, but it is actually broken at the moment. So in order to get it fixed, I'm going to need to go back to the chap and get him to do something for me, or become an electrical engineer in my spare time. So, and then Boost is very modular. So to illustrate that, what I've got here is a modular synthesizer, And when I first started with this, I thought, okay, I want something around improvisation. That was my use case. I wanted to create something that was focused on improvisation. Now that use case has changed. It's now about sound design, but I don't need to get rid of this whole thing. I just need to change a few modules, to make it fit my new use case. So
I really like when it's always fun to have guests that are coming up with with some heavy equipment or nerdy equipment, I should say. Like
Yeah, but
that's always fun to see.
I don't think you can get much more nerdy than that. So,
All right.
so yeah, so that's the modular nature of Boost is
Mhm.
that's really big in the architecture. If you like, I'll give you a few kind of guiding architectural principles that we have. I'll go
Sure.
our approach into the architecture as well as obviously the modular one. So if we go here, okay, so we can see here we've got our modular edge with IoT operations, and then but I guess these four areas, we wanted with Boost, we were obviously aware of the adaptive cloud.
Mhm.
We want data and intelligence to be shared across the enterprise, extensible, but standardized. We want an open modular suite of services to meet the requirements of different teams, and we want it to be highly available. That was one of the things about IoT Edge. It's great product, really light and everything, but it wasn't highly available, on the edge.
Mhm.
IoT operations is, and that's fantastic. It's highly available Kubernetes. So, and then, okay, this is what I've got. I have this on my computer. What is the problem we're trying to solve? Yeah, that's what we always got to come back to. But never mind the problem that we're going to solve today. We've also got to think about the problem we want to solve tomorrow. So, so these statements, are what have governed our architecture.
Mhm. So let
Um,
me let me ask you here a question, Scott, as as you're showing this slide. Like one of the things that I'm curious about, and I know that you have like I know that you have like this cool architecture diagram to show me here. What was the when you guys started to adopt this all new approach that we came up with, right? This all adaptive cloud approach.
yeah.
How did you guys thought about specifically on the Kubernetes aspect side of things? Because this is not something that when you talk to manufacturers, when you talk to retail customers, when you talk to people that are used to do things in a certain way for so many years, right? But then you start being more, you know, you're starting to introduce new technologies, right? Like for example, like
Mhm.
Kubernetes. What was that like?
Um, I mean, they don't know much about it, and they'll be. I guess what we have to accentuate is the fact that it's a platform. Yeah,
Mhm.
whether they have different OT platforms. This again is another platform. They don't necessarily need to be as aware of it. That's something that we're going to take care of.
Mhm.
And particularly, I mean, we've got Azure Linux that has been pushed that is out there now, as well as Arc. Yeah, I mean, Arc can help with that as well, with
Mhm.
that control plane and that management. So, but you're right. I mean, there is always that tension, and there's not. It's just about carrying on having those
Mhm.
conversations, and
Cool.
yeah.
All right. So when we talk about intelligent boost, we talked about the modular approach. We talked about the the structure that you have. What does the implementation look like?
So again, it's consultative. Yeah. So so we consult. We have a lighthouse uh, assessment, and then we create a modular high level, low level design. But I'll give you a bit of a diagram now of
Sure.
what the edge can look like. Okay, for one of our accelerators, because we actually have the usual suspects in terms of our accelerators. We've got quality assurance, anomaly detection. Then we also have operational visibility with OEE and KPI reporting, but then we've also got environmental and health and safety. But this one here, which I thought I'd show you, is
Mhm.
the quality side of things. So very much we've got factory edge, machine edge, and I know that the term accelerator is bandied about a lot. So, oh, I've got an accelerator for this or that, but what I want to, so I'm going to sort of define kind of what makes up an accelerator, that we bring to the customer, that a customer can take advantage of. And for us, the accelerator is the standard sensor and camera communications, the Edge OS, Docker or Kubernetes, IoT Edge, IoT Ops, Arc, Python containers, MQ and the messaging, the model management, an OpenVINO framework is something we often use as standard. Contextualization and telemetry, the storage modules and communication, and IAC and pipelines as well, infrastructure as code and pipelines. And I mean, this is quite key. You know, we've got standard high-level, low-level designs and reference architectures, as well as microarchitectures based on the different accelerator areas. So we're not starting from scratch. You know, every time that we talk to a customer, we've got those architectures already there, as well as, you know, the platform and analytics operations. Because there's no good, we get the deployment in, but actually, how are you going to do BAU on it? You know, so we've got the standard way of managing that as well. So, and coming back to this here, I mean, we can see we have we use containers, Python containers that serve different purposes. So, for example, with the quality one, we've got the cameras, it's streaming, we capture it, we then look at we go to the model. In this particular example, I'm going to show you later, there's a segmentation model. We look at that for anomaly detection, and then we annotate it, and then we pass up, you know, the image up to the cloud, as well as some telemetry, so that we can crunch that data later, you know, whether we're going to be using a Gen AI front end, or, you know, simply put the image into a UI so that an operator can really scrutinize it and have a good look at it. So, yeah.
Okay.
Anything you want me to go into a bit more detail on this, or?
Yeah, please. You know, I always like to nerd on, you know, technical details.
Yeah. So again, you can see here we've got IoT Edge. So we have this running on IoT Edge, but we also have an IoT Ops, AIO. And I mean, I guess the thing about AIO is the possibilities, you know, have increased exponentially. You know, with, you know, the modular. It's modular as well. I'm going to have said that a fair few times by the time we get to this end of this conversation, is the word modular. But yeah, I mean, AIO is modular with the different modules. So you may be taking data and information now, but later on, maybe you might be able to reuse that and use that in a different way for a different business unit. So that's where we really see the value of this sitting on top of AIO.
Okay. So I also know that you have an interesting demo to show me here, like just kind of, you know, on the solution. Can you maybe walk me through this?
Yeah, sure. I'll go into that. So I'll jump into the quality one first, because that's just what I was talking about. So we actually have a conveyor belt. It's like a little demonstrator that we use, and that's sitting in our central London office. And we have a segmentation model on it, looking at wheel hubs. So I got someone to jump on and put some of these through earlier. So what we got here is a wheel hub, and we can see here it's worked out that on this wheel hub there is a drill problem into that drill hole, and there's also a chip as well. And so, yeah, we've got probability of 96% and 94%. So it's pretty sure that, you know, there is a problem there. We also have another anomaly here that it just detected when we put it through, and that's a cut off the edge of the wheel hub. Yeah, and that one's at 88%, still pretty reasonable. We've got this one here, which is actually interesting, because this is oil. It's only got 74%. But as you can see, we still managed to detect the anomaly, you know, even though the light, you can see from that, the lighting isn't great. Yeah. But it's still, you know, so that oil could be a shadow, but it's still 74% sure that that's, you know, potentially an anomaly there. So that's how an operator can have a quick look at that. As well as that, we've also snapped in a Gen AI component, you know, and so we can see here, we've sort of said, you know, I did this earlier because it takes the Gen AI a little bit to come back with the answer. So okay, give me a summary of the defects in 2024. You know, so okay, there's quite a few drilling defects. There's frequent issues. There's cutting defects, oil contamination, other issues. Yeah. So it gives us a nice little this provides insights, and that's what sometimes that you need, when you're dealing with stuff at the coalface on the shop
Yeah.
floor, is these insights.
Scott, this is really interesting because so a couple of things that I just kind of noticed as you're going through the demo, and this was cool. I think that there are two things to address here. One, the computer vision aspect of things, right?
Yeah,
And when you are using computer vision in order to detect these anomalies, right? Which I found very interesting, and I see that more and more. Not that this is new in terms of computer vision. Like obviously the models keep improving, and there is more things, and we obviously also working with a lot of Intel models or OpenVINO models, and part of
hmm,
the ecosystem. But the interesting thing to me is the fact that how people are starting to harvest data or reasoning over the data that is coming from these type of anomalies, right?
yeah,
In the past, a lot of the time, this data was, MQ was always there. The way to get information out of sensors, the
yeah,
way to get information out of raw footage, that was always there. I think that the more important piece is now how you start to put intelligence on top of that. So that's definitely something that caught my eye, which is very interesting. And the second thing, which I'm starting to see more and more, and we also coming up with our own solution as part of the Jumpstart, is the notion of generative AI on top of basically knowledge bases that are designed to help all these OT personnels that are not coming from a technology background in the sense of, like computer vision and all of that. They're just using that in order to do their job. And I think
yeah,
that generative AI is really, introducing a lot of interesting possibilities there. And
yeah.
I wanted to ask you, like, as you are showing that generative AI or that bot that you had there, are you guys using internal assets, and manuals and all of those good stuff, or you're just leveraging things that are out there in the wild, like OpenAI and just public models in
Yeah.
your kind of reg oriented architecture?
I mean, this is sort of a demonstrator environment, that we've shown, and this here is just using OpenAI, um, but we find it's really good. We have been looking at decision support, effectively for
Mhm.
operators. So we can see this one here that we just put in now. We said, okay, how do we control defects? Okay, and it's come back with some, pretty good, ways
Right.
of how to control defects that someone on the shop floor could just be using, to help them with their, you know, uh, could use to support them. So yeah. I guess the other thing,
Yeah.
you made a good point. Computer vision has been around for a while, but I guess what's changed is it has become less black box. So we are able to do computer vision, using standard Microsoft services in a very open way, using open models and everything. So there's a lot less vendor lock-in now. We can
Yeah.
be doing things in much more open way. And when
For
I was
sure.
on the floor at Hanover Messe, that was one thing. There was lots of people coming up to us and saying, "Oh yeah, it has kind of matured to a certain extent now that it's almost about moving into more of the wider acceptance. So it's
For sure.
less sort of niche." And so
Super
yeah,
cool. Super cool. Scott, thank you so much for showing me all these good stuff. This is part of a new series that we have with our partners as part of the IoT operations tech stack. I appreciate you coming to the show. And for the Jumpstart audience, thank you so much for joining us. Make sure to like, subscribe, and we're going to see you in the next one. Bye, everyone.